HarperCollins presents The Secrets of the Shadows by Helen Phifer, read by Claudia Whiteman. Prologue. June 30th, 1984. 6-year-old Sean Black didn't like this house. It smelled funny, and all the furniture was dark and old. He didn't like the man who walked around wearing the long black dress, either. He knew he was a priest, because his mum had told him that he was. She'd also told him that they had to live in the presbytery next to the church, but he didn't know exactly what that meant. They had their own house 2 doors down from this one. It was much smaller, with 3 bedrooms and a tiny garden, but it was big enough to play in with his A-Team action figures. He wanted to go and dig out B.A. Baracus from underneath the rose bush in the front garden, where he had buried him last week, before he got eaten by worms or went mouldy. His mum wouldn't let him. He had asked her this morning when he had finished his bowl of Snap, Crackle and Pop. She had gone mad with him when he said he wanted to go and get his toys, and would she take him? So there wasn't much choice. He was going to come up with a plan of his own, just like Hannibal always did, and go on a rescue mission. He would wait until his mum had a bath. She always spent hours in there and wouldn't notice that he had sneaked out of the door. He just hoped that the priest wasn't an enemy working for the other side and wouldn't drop him in it. His mum had been acting strange all week now, and yesterday she hadn't let him go to his sister Sophie's funeral. Instead, she'd made him stay here, in this big smelly house, with the woman the priest called his housekeeper. He liked her because she baked nice cakes and would let him eat as many as he wanted when his mum wasn't looking. Sean went upstairs to the room, which had become his, until he could go back to his own, with the Masters of the Universe and A-Team posters. The room had a big wooden cross on the wall, and the only thing to read was a thick black book which had Bible written in gold on the front. Sean had looked inside, and then closed it again. The writing was so small it would take him forever to try and read it. He slumped onto the bed. It was boring here. At least when Sophie was alive, he'd had her to play with. Well, until she got poorly, he did. It had started a couple of weeks ago, but a few days ago she'd got really poorly, saying words that he had never heard of, and that were nothing like the French words they sometimes learnt in school. He didn't understand what was going on, but he knew it was something bad. Sophie had been screaming the day she died, really screaming, as if the priest and their mum were hurting her. It was so loud that he had crept from this bedroom to see if he could help her, but her bedroom door was locked. He had looked through the keyhole to see his sister on her bed, with the man in the dress standing over her with a book like the one next to his bed. He was throwing water onto Sophie. Sean had watched as the priest had bent down and placed a wooden cross onto her forehead. He'd stared in horror as the cross burnt into her skin. A sizzling sound made him feel sick, and he'd pushed himself away from the door. He thought he was going to puke all over the polished wooden floor. Telling himself to be brave, he'd gone back to look through the keyhole again to see Sophie thrashing around. She looked angry and hurt. Then her eyes rolled to the back of her head until he could see only the whites of them. It was then that she began to choke. The priest was trying to lift her head, and his mum was watching. Sean didn't understand why she didn't rush to help Sophie. He watched as his sister's face turned blue, and just like that, the noise stopped. It was over, and Sophie was dead. The scream which came from his mum was far worse than seeing Sophie lying perfectly still, frozen in time. Sean scrambled to his feet and ran towards his room. Clutching a plastic toy to his chest, he fell to the floor and crawled under the bed, where he curled up in a ball and cried himself to sleep. He had stayed there, hidden from sight, until the priest came looking for him hours later. Father John had tried to talk him out, but Sean didn't want to leave his hiding place. The priest reached under to pull him out, and Sean sank his teeth into his hand. There was a loud shout and a few bad words, but then the priest had laid flat on the floor so he could see Sean's face.
"Come out, son. You can't stay there all day. Let's go and get you something to eat."
Sean shook his head, curling himself up even tighter.
"I want to see my mum. Where is she?"
"She's fast asleep at the moment. The doctor has been to visit Sophie and your mum. He had to give her some medicine."
"What about Sophie? Did he give her some medicine?"
"No, there is no medicine that will make your sister better. I'm very sorry to say."
"I want to go and see Sophie then."
"Are you sure? Sophie's soul has left."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?